So maybe there's something to it. There might be something. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Hi, and welcome. My name is Rob Laqui. I am one of the executive producers of the CollaborAzian allAPI, A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, which I know some of you have just come from. If you weren't able to just check it out, you can always go to CollaborAzian.com, that's collaboration with a Z, and donate towards Stop AAPI Hate, which will generate a link and you can watch our production for the next week. So there's still time. But today I am joined by some of the amazing and inspiring team that brought this production to life. So I will let them introduce themselves, and let's start with Pearl.
Hi, everybody. I am Pearl Sun, and for this production, I am also a co-executive producer, and I'm so thrilled that you are all here to join us for this panel, and thank you for those of you who have donated and who did join us this evening. And again, you can find us also streaming on Broadway on demand for a whole week. So thank you.
And let's pass it on to Cindy.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, I'm Cindy Cheung. Thanks so much for tuning in. I just saw it for the first time myself too, and I was so impressed by that editing. Oh my God, the throwing thing and the catching thing was great. But welcome. Thanks for watching. And I'll throw it to Alan.
Hey everyone, I'm Alan Muraoka. I am the director of tonight's extravaganza. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed watching it in the editing room and piecing it all together. I still laugh at parts of it every time I watch it. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did putting it together. And I'm gonna throw it over to Stephen.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephen Cuevas. I am a music director, arranger, musician, sometimes actor. And tonight I was the music director for this production of A Gentleman's Guide. It was such a blast to do it with the people in this room and the people you saw on your screen. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I also just want to give a quick shout out to some partners, Broadway On Demand, which was hosting us and our production, Broadway Con, which is hosting this panel and this after party. So, you know, if you have a drink, feel free to drink. We're not going to get that serious. Media partner of Broadway World, .com, MTI, Music Theater International, of course, Stop AAPI Hate, and also some of our media partners, Tremendous Communications, Leviathan Lab, CAPE, Unapologetically Asian, and the Broadway Diversity Project. So it takes a village to make a British farce full of AAPI people, and that's definitely what we did. So first off, I would like to, Alan, you had spoken of this a little bit before in your introduction, but why did you agree to this specific production? What attracted you to this project?
Well, to me, I just love comedy. And anytime I can get my hands on directing something that is funny, it's my wheelhouse. It's where I'm completely comfortable. And I don't get the opportunity that much to do that. So when Diane approached me about this, I said, absolutely. And then we talked about the casting and people who were already cast and people who we could cast. And ultimately, like the 5 people that are in this cast, I cannot imagine anybody else killing it more than the people that were, that were a part of this. And in the original production, the Jefferson Mays part, the Dysquith part, was played by him, and then everybody else was played by separate people. And I thought, well, for this version, since we're cutting it down anyways, what if we had the equivalent version of that Jefferson Mays part in a female role, and that we let Cindy Cheung do all of those roles. And that was like, if I have one thing I'm super happy about, it's that I made that decision, because it was just a delight to watch. And so yeah, so there's a counterpart and there's a partner in crime there. And yeah, so so that's what drew me to the project, and the idea of bringing all these hysterical, talented people together in a room. Well, in a virtual room was the goal.
Well, you never know. Maybe this will be in an actual room one day. So hopefully. I'm curious about sort of everyone's trajectory towards this project. So I'll go ahead and throw the same question to Cindy. What attracted you to this project, and why did you agree to it?
Well, it was Pearl and Alan. So, you know, if they're going to write me and ask me to do something, it's just going to be a yes, straight up, no matter what it is. But then Alan sent me a character list. There are so many people, and I'm out of town right now, and I have some downtime when I'm not working, and I thought, I wonder if I can make that happen when I'm not working. So it really gave me such a super fun project to work on while I had the time. Yeah, and I don't play the ingenue. I play the wacky lady with the fish and the hat, and that's kind of where I like to live. So it was an opportunity just to like do stuff, you know, just play around and do what I wanted. And so, of course.
Well, it was thrilling and hilarious, and we loved having you. And maybe one day we'll have like a fishbowl version where you get to be the ingenue. So you never know. Future's wide open. Stephen, same question. What attracted you to this piece, and why did you agree to it?
I was approached by Diane, who rang me up.
And that's Diane Phelan, yeah.
Yes, Diane Phelan. She and I had worked together on a couple of projects over the pandemic, and I received a phone call from her one day, which I never received phone calls. And she was giving me this pitch to ask me if I wanted to join this project as the music director. And I think I said yes. I think I interrupted her before she got through the entire thing. This is actually a show that I wanted to do ever since I saw it on Broadway. So, I mean, I just jumped at the opportunity. So, and when she told me that she was going to be playing Sibella and Ali would be playing Phoebe, I was like, there's no one else I would cast in those roles, Asian version or not. So I thought this would be like the perfect project to work on. So of course I said yes.
Yes, and they definitely hit it out of the park for sure. And rounding out with Pearl, how did you join this project? What attracted you, and why did you agree?
So again, Diane Phelan, Miss Sibella herself, she really brought us, most all of us together, quite frankly. And Diane and I went to college together. And we were randomly having lunch one day, and
2015, right? 2015. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And we were having lunch, and it was, you know, trying to remember when we had lunch. It was probably earlier this year, and she was just asking me, "What am I up to? How am I feeling?" And I said, "You know, I'm okay. I want to do more." I am primarily an actor, and for those of you who don't know, but I just wanted to have a greater say in the kinds of stories that are being put out there into the world, especially given the past year and a half that we've had. So I just wanted to be a proponent of that, and I felt like the only way that I can really make a difference is to get my hands dirty, you know? And so I said, well, I'm kind of toying with, and I've taken a couple of commercial theater producing classes over this period, and I'm really interested in the machinations of it and getting involved in on that side of the table. And she said, funny you should say that, because I have this dream idea. She and Carl had been talking about it for quite some time, and they kind of just said, you know, let's just throw it out there to people and see what they say. And I said to her, and she said, would you be interested in helping out? I said, let's do it. This is my first foray into it. Let's just go for it. And here we are.
And how did you find the experience? Are you gonna keep producing? Or are you like, I'm good, I'm gonna be on stage, it's good?
No, I mean, I thought that, well, I was fortunate to be saddled with all y'all, because we have such an incredible group of producers and executive producers involved, that everyone just pitched in and took a different piece of the pie to manage and oversee so that nothing was overwhelming. And I felt like it just was a really incredible balance, and we all very much respected each other, and we worked really well together. So I really enjoyed that. And we had the kind of a shorthand that normally you would have after years of knowing each other. And a lot of us are new to each other. So I was just really thrilled by that.
That's great. Yeah, it definitely felt like an egoless process, which in this industry, as we all know, is something that's very rare. I'm going to do a quick lightning fire thing, just as a little experiment here. I'm going to ask everyone's favorite musical. Alan?
Once on This Island.
Okay, Pearl?
Sunday in the Park with George.
Steven? Look at Steven.
It changes by the day. Oh,
well, what is
goodness.
it right now? Because I get the like.
Oh, right now. I'm going to say Once.
That's a beautiful choice. Cindy?
I was gonna say Once on This Island, and then Alan said it, and I was like, all right, well then Sunday in the Park with George. And then Pearl said that. So I'm gonna say Into the Woods.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh,
And not to throw anyone under the bus, but I think that I did that little experiment as sort of a starting point to say that as AAPI individuals, those stories, those favorite things that we see, mine is definitely Into the Woods for sure, and then Chicago. And watching those things live for the first time, I never even thought of the question of representation while watching them. And so now I would love to hear from y'all, like the first moment where you saw sort of yourself, or at least your story, in a musical on stage, and how that affected you. So Alan, I'm curious.
Okay, well, I got to the city in 1987 with the show. And in the shows that I saw, the diversity, especially for the Asian American diversity, was always in the chorus. So it was always, you're seeing Joanne Hunter, and you're seeing Darren Lee, and you're seeing Lainey Sakakura, who just were phenomenal, and but they were the representation, and at least they were there. And that's the show that brought me here. I was in an ensemble of the show as well. And I think for me, the moment that I saw somebody sort of an Asian American get cast non-traditionally was probably Leia in Les Mis. Was probably the first time I saw somebody, and I think that all happened because of the Miss Saigon controversy. And then all of these people coming, Cameron seeing the talent, the immense talent that was in that company, and the possibilities of other projects for them. And that, I think that's what started it. And then it sort of generated out from there. And then the next revival, there were more. allAPI was in the revival, Adam Jacobs, Anarada. So, and I feel like that's what's happening now. It's like the more exposure that we have, and the more idea of us being able to step up into a role and seeing that it's successful will give people more courage to take that opportunity, and give that opportunity to not just Asian Americans, but across the board, more inclusion across the board.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's well said. And I think that there's a generation coming up where hopefully they'll be able to see themselves more, not only in their own stories, but also just as represented in stories in general. Cindy, can you speak to sort of the first moment you on stage saw someone in a musical that you're like, oh, wait, that's me, or that's my story?
This is just dawning on me now, my trajectory in that. In undergrad, I was a math major, so I did not get involved in acting until my last year as an undergrad. And it was with an Asian American, no experience needed, college kids, writing our own pieces group called Here and Now, which is still around, which is so great. And from that experience, feeling so much a part of this a community, it was the Asian American theatrical community. I mean, everybody had like science and, math degrees. But I started from that place of community, and we performed at Asian American undergrad. That we went to different colleges around Southern California and performed for Asian American undergrads, and they were so affected by what they saw and they so identified and were so moved, and it was like exactly what you want theater to be. They'd come up like weeping afterwards, like seeing themselves for the first time, and also seeing their stories told, because of course all the stories that we were telling were, I want to be a guitarist, but I'm stuck in med school, my dad doesn't understand me, like because that was everybody's story. And then from there I wormed my way into East West Players, and I took their summer conservatory, and it was all Asian people, and they all sang, and they all did this for a living. They were older than me, so people like my parents' age were doing this, and it just completely opened my eyes to what was possible. And I didn't really sing too much yet then. But I auditioned for the musical, and I got cast in this, small, fun, substantial part. And it was Lucinda, one of the stepsisters in Into the Woods. So the very first time I saw Into the Woods, everybody was Asian. And that's just dawning on me now that is my baseline.
That's amazing.
That's incredible. Yeah.
It really is just dawning on me. And then, then it's been some years since. And then the cold, harsh reality that it's not just that all the time. But just the fact that seeing that community and seeing those people do those things made me think it was possible. And I switched from being a software engineer to an actor because I saw all of them. And I was in this show with all of them, which just makes us being here and being the faces of these shows. Some people are seeing the show for the first time. This is now an Asian show for them.
Love that. I absolutely love that.
Right?
And,
the stamp. Yeah.
They'll see, the original production go, this is weird. This is weird.
Yeah. Whenever I see, other Into the Woods, I'm like, oh yeah, but the original was Glenn Shin and Emily Kuroda.
That's amazing. You're like, Bernadette who?
Yeah. I got it. Yeah.
I'm curious about the room here. So Pearl, when was the first time you sort of noted representation on the musical theater stage? It could be live or not live.
I mean, quick backstory, my parents were amateur Chinese opera singers. So I grew up around that, surrounded by that. And I even participated in shows growing up as a kid with them. And so that was it just kind of was always there. So annually they'd put on a show with their friends. And once a week they would meet to just kind of hang and sing together. And my brother and I would always just go, oh, we have to go again, but that really is my background. Right. And I really felt like I lucked out because in high school, I got to do a lot of leading roles so it didn't even dawn on me that it wasn't an option. And I think that's so I'm going to attribute my wonderful high school teacher, Helen Stringos, who is no longer with us, but she just gave me all these opportunities. And so I just never thought it wasn't possible for me to be Sandy in Grease. I played Sandy in Grease. I played the Natalie Wood character in Rebel Without a Cause. I played the narrator in Joseph. So it just never dawned on me. And then, but I also never thought of it as a career until I took a high school trip to go to New York for a week. And I got to see Cats and I got to see Miss Saigon. And so when I saw Miss Saigon and I saw, a whole sea of people who looked like me, who were doing this for a career, I just went, oh, I can do this beyond just for fun. Like my parents were doing it for fun, right? And yeah, so I just kind of went about, and I went to college, I went to NYU, and I just kept doing my own thing without really thinking too hard about, oh, am I going to be cast in this because I'm Asian or not? Which I think really served me well when I got out of school. But, of course, there are obstacles, and I have tons of stories of things that didn't work out because of the way I look. But I also have, fortunately, a lot of great stories where I got to play things that are non-traditionally Asian. So I hope that I can continue to work and in projects that I care deeply about, that are meaningful to me, that hopefully translate and become meaningful to audience members.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Stephen, to round out the room, do you remember the first time that you saw a production where you noted the representation, particularly AAPI representation?
Yeah, my stories are similar, and I can take from each of the other three. The first thing I remember is I have an older brother who went on a school trip to see Les Miserables, and Lea Salonga played Eponine. So that's the first time I really noticed that. And then, of course, she went on to do the 10th anniversary concert of that show. And me being a musical nerd, I also listened to the symphonic recording of Les Miserables, and who plays Eponine on that? Kaho Shimada from Japan. So that is certainly stamped in my memories. And same with Pearl. I grew up doing theater in school all the way through college, and I never felt any limitations. And thankfully, my teachers and educators and directors didn't see my appearance as a hindrance either. But I think the first true moment I realized Asian representation was the 1997 film of Cinderella, where Paolo Montalban played Prince Charming, and I was like, wait, that's actually me. That's actually someone who looks like me playing a romantic lead. Opposite Brandy, who I loved because I loved 90s R&B also. So it was all of my dreams come true.
I think it's a lot of our dreams come true. Yes.
Can I share a quick story about that, Stephen? Paolo and I were in the revival of King and I, the 1996 revival. And so we shared a dressing room. And so he brought in the sides for it. And so I read the sides with him. And after he's...
Wait, Alan, you were Brandy?
I was Brandy. And I was damn good.
That's so awesome.
I'm still waiting for the call. But after I read with him, I was like, you're going to get this. I mean, you're great and you're gorgeous, so you're gonna get this. Lo and behold, he did.
Well, your director brain turned on. You're like, I'd cast you.
Exactly.
You were like, I have notes. 1 second.
I have notes for you.
Yeah. He has you to thank, Alan, for sure. I think that brings us sort of around to this kind of free forming it here. But in terms of one of the more interesting things that we've noticed in these moments where we've gotten to work with people from our communities. A lot of times in our industry and other industries as well, we experience a certain siloization, right? Or a certain separation from people that are in our community or other communities. We're segmented to some degree. What has it meant to sort of be in a space on stage, quote unquote, and off stage, and work on a project where it's 99% AAPI, and how has it been a surprising moment? Has it been something shifted in the way that you would like to work in the future? I'll throw this actually to Stephen, because I'd be curious about your perspective, especially as a music director.
Yeah, this is truly my first time doing anything like this. I have never done a Saigon. I've only done King and I with mostly white people. So this is truly the first production I have done with a majority Asian team. And it is, I wonder why it can't always be like this.
It
can. I mean, everyone who was involved was top notch and just really good at what they do. And like, a lot of people don't know this, like on the music side, it is very, very homogenous, and you only see white men predominantly in pit orchestras and conducting and music directing and hiring the people who are musicians. Even when you see shows like The King and I or Miss Saigon, the pit is still all white. The conductor is still, who's holding the baton, is still white. So I don't even get these opportunities to tell stories from my heritage. So this was an incredible opportunity and really eye-opening. I've seen so many other people revel in experiences like this, whether they are an Asian cast or an all-Black cast or a Latinx cast. And so it is wonderful to finally experience something like this.
Well, we are glad to have you. And it's, again, to echo what you're saying, the sort of the level of excellence and commitment and passion to the project is really shows in the final product, and also by the amount of attention and support and donations we're able to achieve for Stop AAPI Hate, and we're still going. And I think that this is just the start of a thing, and it has definitely been transformative for me to work with predominantly AAPI cast and crew and production team. Alan, do you have any reflections on being able to work with an all-API cast, all-API team?
Well, like Cindy, I got my start at East West Players in LA a few years before her. But it was the first time that I had that experience as well, of being in a room full of people that look like me. And what came out of that, the 2 years that I worked there, was this idea of family, and how just automatically you have this comfort level of, and everyone wants to eat. So there's always a potluck brewing somewhere in a 2-show day. And then when I moved to New York, I did a lot of the primarily Asian shows. So I did Miss Saigon, I did Shogun, I did Pacific Overtures. So I did King and I. So I had that opportunity a lot. And it's always a great thing to have an all Asian cast, but I will say it is also great to not have an all Asian cast and to be a part of an inclusive cast as well. But there's just a comfort level and a feeling of family. I mean, I'm still in touch with all of the kids from the King and I cast that they did in '96, and they're all getting married, and it's just a part of it, is like, you just stay in touch, because it is like, they become family. So yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I feel like we've established a lot of times, particularly in producing. Very similarly, Stephen, it's predominantly Caucasian fields that you're Caucasian and male fields that you're dealing with. And when you have those instances, I remember one time we were at TCG conference, and it was just a room where celebrating, all, Black, Indigenous, people of color accomplishment. And every other sort of conference was very like dry, just talking about some things. And this was just like a celebration. And, that's what it felt like a lot of times with this group, trying to make this thing happen. So it's definitely an honor to be a part of. And, again, maybe not, and hopefully not the last. So that being said, in terms of, are there other projects or what's like another dream musical? We joke about this too, but is there another, or what other sort of properties potentially are you like, I would like to tackle that one? I'm going to throw it to Pearl for this.
Oh boy, as a performer,
as anything, as a producer, performer, set builder, I don't know.
As far as producing is concerned, I'm always interested in new stuff. I wanna blaze the trail. So, but it's interesting because as a performer, I'd like to do some of the classics, right?
What's the classics? What's that category?
For me, I'd love to play Mrs. Lovett one day in Sweeney Todd. I'd love to play Mama Rose in Gypsy one day.
Me too. Our lists are the same, Pearl. I don't know what.
I know. I mean, and I just got to do The Witch and Into the Woods with Active Connecticut, and that was a dream, So yeah, it's really interesting because I kind of want to grab the things that people say that are not for us, right? As a performer. And then as a producer, I'm very interested in telling new stories and bringing new perspectives forward.
Absolutely. And Cindy, do you have anything? Are you eyeing anything? Is it the same list?
I was going to say love it.
We can do it. You can do 4
alternate.
And I'll do 4.
Yeah. That'd be great. Yeah.
Someone takes matinees. Yeah.
8 times a week is too much. It's
way too much. 4 and 4, girl.
And then we'll leave each other little notes in the pies.
Yeah.
It'll be awesome. That's really the one that comes to mind. And, I've actually had 2 opportunities to do it and couldn't do it.
Oh, no.
Each time it was like, you're never going to get this opportunity again. I'm like, I know. Jeez. And then it
comes up again.
And then it came up a second time. I'm like, this is it. So,
Have you ever played The Baker's Wife? I would cast you as The Baker's Wife in a heartbeat.
Oh, I was going to something. I was about to, and then just, this career, things pop up and they
pull you away. Booked to take all the.
I just think, no, everything comes at the same time. There's like a dry and then pour. And then you have to look inside, what do you really want?
Absolutely.
That's really the one. And I'm with you, Pearl. I'm very interested in looking forward. I get to experiment in a lot of new plays. I'm in part of a off-Broadway community that often delves into new forms, and I'm just always up for a workshop to see what we can do there.
Love it.
Absolutely. I'm curious, so I'm going to throw this. I'll give you more chance to think, Alan. I'm going to throw it to Stephen.
Thank you.
So this can be as a performer, as a music director, and one of the hyphenates that you have.
Yes. Well, I'm a Diz nerd, very proudly. And the very first show I saw on Broadway was Beauty and the Beast. So I would love to do Beauty and the Beast.
It's a good show.
Yeah, it was a good one for my first one. I was 10 and it changed my life. And it was a great cast. People you probably all know, like Carrie Butler and Mark Kudish were in it. And
the transformation.
Oh, the transformation. Oh my goodness, the full orchestra. But another dream project of mine that I know has been done with all Asian casts is Mamma Mia. I am a huge ABBA fan. I have really weird obsessions. So it's like Disney and ABBA, and one more I wanted to do. I'll throw it back to what I said before once, because any show where they actually use music in the storytelling, I'm like a sucker for. And when I saw that show, I was like, I could actually do this show. There's no reason why there shouldn't be Asian representation in the show.
Yep.
And there's a working bar on stage.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah. What could be bad?
Functional bar. I was like, can we go up there?
Yes.
Okay.
We
let's go.
did. I certainly did.
Me too.
Now,
Alan, you had enough time.
Yes, Stephen, did you know that Beauty and the Beast, there were two, I believe, Bells,
yes,
American Bells, Ann Sanders,
and yeah.
Deborah Lou,
yeah,
who were in the Broadway companies of that,
yeah.
which is so exciting.
Yeah.
So my choice is something that actually it was not my idea. It was given to me by Ann Harada, and Ann Harada was like, okay, before it's too late, we should do an Asian Follies, because we have the talent. We have that layer of the older talent with our amazing Byork Lee and Alvin Ng. And like, we have this layer of people who could do all of those roles. And then, we have the middle old futzes like me and my circle, and Harada and Jason Ma and Christine Toy Johnson, and then the younger group as well. So this might, it's an epic show, but I am just throwing it out there that there's something to that covers generations that really appeals to me.
I love it.
You never know.
I also want to throw it out there that Disney is not my only love. I love Stephen Sondheim, and I would gladly do any single show of his.
Absolutely.
Same.
Yeah, you're in.
Maybe we'll make a collaboration. We'll make a Sondheim run. Who knows? Who knows? Along those lines, I would love to talk about sort of, a question we've gotten about, like, why Gentleman's Guide? Like, what is the importance of sort of having an all AAPI cast in Gentleman's Guide? That it's not necessarily, and again, something, Alan, that you touched on in your intro about, you traditionally don't see, Asians and AAPI performers in a British farce. And so the question that we get a lot is, well, why this show? And why is it important to have AAPI performers, particularly in shows that aren't necessarily written for them, quote unquote? So Pearl, what do you have sort of thoughts on what that means?
I do. I think what is important about it, and it's so funny because it was brought to me, right? So I didn't choose this, but in having received this show, right? I see the importance of all the people performing these roles, showing the ability, because there was a panel that Cindy was actually a part of a handful of years ago, where an audience member, basically, I'm just going to give a brief summary. It was supposed to be set in China, this show, and it was predominantly cast non-Asian. And when they threw it to the audience to ask questions, this one older Caucasian woman spoke up and said, well, maybe there aren't enough Asian talent out there to cast these roles appropriately. To which Christine Toy Johnson said, I have a Rolodex to fill this entire cast fourfold. So there is this misconception that there aren't enough of us and that we don't exist and that we don't have the capacity or the ability to play everything. And as you can see, our beautiful cast showed you that they can do everything and anything and be brave and bold and play multiple characters, don accents, and don them well. And so the more that we are not seen as other, the more that we are seen as and included, I think that that is the power of doing a piece like this, you know? And it also allows us to learn from these experiences, right? I hear from some of my casting director friends and my agents who are friends who say, you know, they almost got the job, but they weren't so great at the accent. And so here's the thing. The more times you perform in an accent, the better you get at it, right? And so the more you are given the opportunity, or the more, I'm going to say it again, when we earn those opportunities to play leading roles, then they beget leading roles, all right? It's the same as a silver medalist. You can't get to the gold until you feel what that feels like and get closer and closer. And then when you are a gold medalist, you continue to be a gold medalist. Why? Because you know how to get there and you know how to feel that. And so that's the power of what just happened tonight. And for the next, and everybody gets to view it for the next 2 weeks. And I hope that it continues in this way.
That's beautiful.
Brilliant.
That's beautifully spoken. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there is this also reflection on AAPI participation in what it means to be an American. You know, that Asian people were a part of the British Empire and part of that time frame, that even dramaturgically, you know, some of these choices actually could potentially be. So it's not an excuse to say within casting, say, well, it's a British farce and only British people or only white people are British. You're like, what now? And it's the same thing, you know, as a reflection in American musical theater, that the American experience is a vast diaspora of communities that exist in this space.
And Asians have been around since the 1500s in the United States. And people don't know that because we're not taught that in our history books. So the more that we make our voices heard, the more that we present ourselves and have the audacity and really take ownership of the fact that we belong here, right? I think everyone will benefit, Asians and non-Asians. Everyone benefits when we learn more about each other. You know, it just, there's no loss from that. Sorry, I'm on a soapbox. Sorry about it.
No, it's awesome.
No, it's
good.
beautifully
It's
spoken.
good.
Yeah. And I think that there's, just to point out, to lighten the mood a little bit, a Rolodex, for those of you that don't know, is
I know. I just thought of that.
It's a physical thing with
Oh my
addresses and names on it.
Physical
And it
address
had
books that you can turn.
you had a dial,
Knobs.
had
my
knobs
God.
on the side.
We have to explain
I've
this
used
now.
No, I said Rolodex in a meeting, and literally I saw half the people in that room go, and I went, oh my God.
Right.
I mean, I never like fully used one, but I just knew reference wise what it was.
Yeah.
But there's like a whole, so yeah, so Rolodex is how people used to look for addresses and phone numbers
Amazing.
to do those.
Amazing.
We have some questions coming in as well from
Yay.
some of our audience members. So some of them are technical, some of them, you know, are specific to the show. So we're going to field some of those and give the people what they want. So this is a question from Carly's Bracelets.
I want one.
So this would be specifically for Cindy. How difficult or challenging would it be, or was it to do acting without a scene partner? If challenging at all, it didn't look challenging at all for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what we do is pretend. I have to say also that, you know, Stephen, you know, provided us with a musical track that we were able to have playing in our ears so that we could coordinate timing in terms of interacting with someone. But I don't have anything real deep to say. You just sort of imagine they're there, you hold till you think they're done, and then you say the next thing. sorry. I mean, I don't
we're not looking for like, you know, a depth here, because sometimes, look, Cindy, you have a career of doing this, and that's its own technique, just like what Pearl said. The more you get opportunities to do these things, the better you are at them without
That's
even
right.
thinking about it.
By the 14th day of self-taping this thing, I could pop on an apron and hit play. And
I think it's good to also share with everybody how long it took start to finish taping wise for you to self-tape and do that.
Oh yeah. Well, we did the music first, and I think Stephen and I met for a couple of sessions, maybe a couple of hours each, or maybe just once. I don't remember. And then maybe it sort of was on and off for 2.5 weeks. Some short days, some longer days, and then for me, because a lot of my stuff is just direct address and not like a whole lot of back and forth. I just got this list. Like, if you could just hit these characters on your own time, that'd be great. And so I would, you know, find some time to do those on my own. And I would always try to do it in makeup order. Like, the worst thing was that day we did Copley, the farmer, where I had all the man makeup and a mustache and everything. And then I forgot to record his bow. And I took it all off, and we did all this other stuff. And so a few days later, I'm like, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. You gotta be consistent. And, you know, that was some extra time.
Now, to let people know, so we did rehearse, we had rehearsals with their scene partners. And
Yes.
for some of the scenes, we were able to tape them together. They taped at the same time. And so they had a scene partner there. But sometimes it just wasn't possible because of timing.
They taped separately, but through
Right.
Zoom at the same time.
Absolutely, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So we
It
all
was
know that
all
this is
virtual.
still over the pandemic,
All
and
the up and up. Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, certain limitations started to get lifted, but by then it was already done anyway. So everything was done in their own spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what you cannot do that with music because of the lag. There's just that's impossible to do. So yeah. So some of the scene work we were able to do together. Some of it was separate though.
Related, again, sort of more technical question. I think maybe Alan, you can feel this one. This is from Stephen Owanusa, LLANUSA. How many takes were needed to make remote actors appear to be in the same space and interact with each other, like passing props or holding hands or skating or falling off a church tower?
Yeah, I would say on the average, there was probably around 4 takes per thing that were good. There were definitely lots of takes that were like, oh, I messed that up. Oh, my mic wasn't on. Oh, my lighting fell. Like, you know. So I have to say, I give it up to the actors because it is so, you can't even imagine how hard this is to be your own lighting person, your own makeup person, your own costume person, your own sound person, and then have your own camera, and then have to act with, you know, it is a huge lift, and they all just did it so wonderfully and seamlessly. So yeah.
Would you?
I noticed a lot of my characters were sweating, and that was because I had just finished setting it all up. Sorry, just wanted to say.
Do you, especially, you know, that you know, both Alan and Cindy sort of have straddled theater and television work and film work. Is there a relation to this, or is it a completely different animal?
Oh, there's an absolute correlation to this. I wouldn't have been able to do this if I wasn't directing stuff with Sesame as a director, and doing virtual stuff and understanding the idea of, even though you're on a single camera and it's like we're shooting like a Zoom meeting, of how to keep things moving. And along that lines, I have to hand it out to our editing team, our Bien, Naceli Vega and Bianca De Sora, because they killed it. They absolutely, like in a
beyond
day.
My wildest imagination.
of stuff. Like,
They were quick.
their imaginations were so great. And I told them, like, we have to just keep this moving and,
How
find
much time
energy
did they
from
have,
seeing.
Alan? How
Say
much
that
time
again?
did they have, Alan? How much time
They
did they have?
had, I would say 3 weeks to get this all together.
Wow.
But we also then had to like give notes. So they would give me a pass, and then Stephen would give notes, and I would give notes, and then they would have to do it again. So yeah, so this all came down,
And for
this
those
was all
people,
very last minute.
for those people that don't realize how quick of a turnaround that is for a 90-minute to 100-minute piece with the multiple elements, with music involved, with quick cuts, they basically made a movie in 3 weeks, which is
It's miraculous.
crazy.
It's miraculous what they did.
Really is.
So yeah.
Stephen, on the music front, what were some technical challenges or things that were unexpected? And did you have to do multiple takes with people, or, was it something that was surprisingly smooth sailing for you?
Oh, yes. So the way this was done was as if we were going into a studio, a recording studio, where I would be behind, the big panels and everything, and the actor would be in their own booth. But then that means the actor had to be their own sound engineer and person setting up the microphone. So on that side, they also had to be their own crew person and recordist. And so the way it worked was the actor would listen to the music on headphones because if the music were playing live, we would capture the music as well as their vocals. So we had to get clean vocals of everyone. So I basically recorded via Zoom everyone, and what I heard was a cappella vocals. And Cindy's laughing because I alone have experienced Cindy Cheung doing all of her crazy vocal coloratura takes a cappella, and it was brilliant. We did multiple takes of that, and it was so we basically chose which one made me chuckle the most, which was hard to decide. So yes, basically we had to, it's the same as the video editing. I had to sift through all of the vocal takes and do a full composite. And then I was working with my brother, Jonathan Cuevas, who was brilliant in putting together all of the music and all of the voices and made it sound like they were all in the same room in the same. So
I was going to say, in credits due very similarly, like the editors, the music edit. When something is so seamless and is right, and you don't notice, you know what I mean? Like, that's when it's like, I think particular people that are in our industry, when we know how hard it is, and when we see something or hear something, we're like, that's correct, that's right, and it soars, and allowing the material to soar.
Well, and I also want to give a shout out to our costuming team as well.
Yes.
Melinda Basaka, who was our costume director, and then of course Carla Posada, who was our costume designer. I mean, and again, Cindy was away on location, and we had to ship her costumes, and then we had her ship it back to us.
It was the best package I've ever opened.
I mean, and just to really get all of those. I mean, Alan created the incredible lists, very detailed lists of what was needed, but every costume piece and their base costumes just really, especially in this format, it does matter so much. And I just want to thank them for their work as well.
Absolutely. Another question that we're getting from our fans here, I don't know, sure, audience members, is about sort of script cuts. This is an abridged version. What was the strategy or impetus behind the script cuts and the music cuts? And I think Alan and Stephen can speak to this. So,
well, because we've all been living in a Zoom world for the last year and a half, still are. The term Zoom fatigue just kept getting battered around at Sesame, and so the idea of making sure that stuff just always had energy and movement and forward drive. And so for me, I thought we cannot have people sit through a 2.5 hour show. We will just lose them. So the idea was of doing a abridged version of the show where we got all of the numbers that we felt really drove the story forward, that had that, or like that song, if it would be missing, someone would be mad. So a show queen would be up in arms. So, and so we did, I did an initial cut of it using Monty's little monologues as the through line to bring us from scene to scene to scene. And and I did one cut and I just sort of gave it to the group, and and Stephen had a couple of songs. He was like, no, this has to be in here. We added those in. But for the most part, the script kind of stayed to what that first cut was for the most part. So I'm really happy that I hope I don't get a call from Stephen Lutvak.
We love you, Stephen. Thank you so much.
Right, but I was like pretty happy with it. So I thought we told a good story.
I think, reflecting from the producerial side as well, that it's really such a pleasure to work with a team where you trust the team to do what they're supposed to do in the team. That, especially on the producing end, sometimes you feel like you kind of have to micromanage because you're not seeing something being met here, or you're always having conversations with this thing or that thing or whatever. But this was an instance where I had so much faith and trust in, Alan being to execute sort of the directorial choices, and Stephen, the music is, fantastic, and the cast and all the other producers that are involved as well, that once we had something on our plate, it was taken care of, and it was taken care of with intention and responsibility. And it's just been a pleasure to sort of work with this kind of team for sure.
Can I give a shout back out to Rob? Because so the backplates that we used were generously given from the original production. But in the original production, not every scene had a backplate. And so there were definitely times where it was like, we don't have this. So we don't have Monty's apartment fabulous after he gets rich. So I shot it to Rob of like, hey, Rob, can you create this? Can you just put some nice furniture and drapes in Monty's apartment? And he did. And so he did that for probably 4 or 5 of the backplates. And then he also did the fantastic newspaper little swirls that come in with just funny, right? So Rob is responsible for creating all of those. So
we're all multi-hyphenates. Thank you, Alan. I appreciate it.
But before we wrap up, I do want to say thank you to Stephen Lutvak.
Yes.
Robert L. Freedman.
Yes.
For their generosity in sharing their piece with us and allowing us to play in this way, and to then support us in fundraising for Stop Asian Hate. It's just such a gift during this time.
Absolutely.
And as we are wrapping up here, I want to reiterate to anyone that's watching our panel today that the production is still up for another 7 days until the 22nd, I believe. And you can go to CollaborAzian, that's CollaborAzian with a Z, and donate to Stop AAPI Hate, and that will generate a link where you will be able to watch our production on Broadway On Demand. And to echo, Pearl, your gratitude not only to Stephen and Robert and the team that was able to allow us to make this happen, but everybody that's been involved with this project. I don't think I've put up a production as quickly as this. It really started as a concept, and the momentum of the stone rolling down this hill was, much quicker, and this hill was much steeper than we envisioned, and we still got and landed safely and beautifully on our feet. And it's just been a pleasure to work with the entire team. And I really, really have great hope that this will just be the first step in many steps, not only to be working with this team, but to change the face of how we approach theater, how we approach musicals, and how we approach the American musical theater industry and community. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining today here in the Zoom room. I'm so grateful to have this conversation with y'all. And out there in internet land, please watch our show when you can. And we're still up. And every dollar goes to supporting Stop AAPI Hate. And that's the reason we did this outside of the representation. So definitely enjoy it because it was a pleasure to make.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.